Hey friends, welcome back to the shop. It's the CNC Auto Channel and I'm your friendly neighborhood mechanic. Sure appreciate you joining us today. Today we're going to be changing the wheel bearing hubs on a four-wheel drive Ford F-150 or Expedition in this case. Now this is going to be on a 2017 Expedition, but the things that I'm showing you are really very similar on almost all those trucks from say 2011 or so to present. So good tips along the way. And I'm going to do it a little differently today. I'm just going to set up the camera. I'm going to hit go, and we're going to see how long it takes to do this job. I'm going to take my sweet time with it, and I think you'll be surprised at how long it takes to do a wheel hub on one of these trucks. So come along with me, and let's see what's it take to fix the four-wheel drive wheel hubs of a Ford F-150. Okay guys, let's see how long it takes us to put a wheel hub on the front of this Ford Expedition. Same thing for a Ford F-150, it's four-wheel drive. Dang, Ford, swollen lug nuts. Why can't they just make a one-piece lug nut? Oh, right. Okay. Set this out of the way. All right, here we go. All right. Let's go ahead and remove the caliper. You can just turn the wheel, give yourself access to the back here. All right, the caliper bolts are 21 millimeter. Go ahead and pull those off. There's one. And there's two. Ryobi impact. This is the smaller of the two. I also have the big one, but I use it to break lug nuts. Okay. Let's go ahead and take this caliper out of the way. And we'll hang it up so it doesn't harm the brake hose. Let's see here, where's a good spot? That'll do. That'll do. Okay. All right. Now we can remove disc brake. It's kind of seized on there, huh? Probably need a bigger hammer. All right, let's go get our bigger hammer then. Ah, the BFH. Let's go to work. There we go. All right, now let's put a lug nut on here, just so it doesn't come jumping off, try to kill somebody. And remember, you just want to hit here in between the legs. Boy, that thing's stuck on there pretty good, isn't it? There we go. All right, the BFH always wins. Set that here out of the way. All right, so the next thing we want to do is remove this little protective dust cover. We want to reuse it, so we're not gonna damage it. We're just gonna pry it out of the way. Got some channel locks here. Just kind of grab hold of it and wiggle it. It'll come off. Now we got to remove this little axle retaining nut, and it is what size? 13. Put it on our smaller of the two impacts here. There she is. Keep those together. All right. Now let's see if the axle is free in here. It is. You can move and see it move in there. I'm going to push it back in. Cool. All right. So now we can go ahead and since the new hub comes with a new ABS sensor, we don't have to remove this and worry about protecting it or anything like that. So now we can just move the 4 bolts that hold this hub on from the back. Those are 18s, I believe. And while we have it turned in this direction, we'll go ahead and get these 2 on this side that are freed up. There's one. And 2. Turn the wheel a little bit. We'll get the other side. Oh, I think I can. That's probably good enough. All right. And this one. There's that one. And number 4. There you go. Okay. Now the hub should be ready to come off. Of course, they're almost always stuck on here a little bit. Make sure that you got all your bolts loose. You don't want to be beating on it thinking, oh, it's not coming off when it's still got a bolt on it. All right, so again, we don't need this thing. We got a whole new one here, so we can free it up a little bit. Just a little light touch of persuasion. It's coming off pretty easy. Kind of hit on the lug, kind of widen this out. Go back to the other side. There you go. Not too bad. We don't live up north where you got all the problems with salt and corrosion. So we're doing pretty good down here. Now the ABS wires want to hold it in place, so we'll go ahead and get it out of the way just to free us up a little bit. The 5mm Allen holding this thing in. Again, we don't have to protect it or anything. Okay, there she is. All right, let's get our new one. Make sure spindle looks good. It's not boogered up. Grease is good in here. It's a good idea to put just a little bit of grease around the edges and the flats where rust has started to occur, just so that this thing will come off a little easier for the next guy. Do him a solid, because him or her may be you. Okay, let's get our other new part. All right, Moog, M-O-O-G. They make good stuff. Not a sponsor. Okay, here's our new hub. Comes in this nice big yellow box. Oh yeah. Look at that beauty. Woo! That pretty. Like I said, it comes with its own ABS sensor. So before we put this on, let's get this old ABS sensor out of the way. It's held on over here with a little 8mm nut. We could have undone that sucker a minute ago too, but we'll just do it now. Now you do want to retain this bolt because it holds the wire in place. Hey guys, I'm going to take just a quick break here. Remind you, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like and that subscribe button. It really helps the channel to reach a greater audience. I hope you guys are appreciating our content. Now let's get back to it. We'll go ahead and set our hub up in place, and the ABS wire comes out of the top. On this Ford, you don't have to worry about the backing plate, removing the backing plate to get the ABS wire to come through it, because it kind of just tucks underneath it a little easier than some. All right, so make sure that you got that thing lined up. You can even start, well, let's put a little Loctite on these bolts. Anytime you're working on suspension or brake parts, it's a good idea to put a little bit of Loctite on the bolts. You sure don't want these sort of things coming loose while you're cruising down the road at 80 miles an hour these days. And you can start them by hand. There's about a 1/4 inch gap here. We're going to draw it in here in a minute, but first we're going to pull those hubs, the four-wheel drive hubs, in using the vacuum of the engine, because whenever the engine is running on one of these Fords with the four-wheel drive, the four-wheel drive is disengaged. The hubs are pulled back. So we're going to start it up and let the engine vacuum do the work for us. That way you don't have to have extra tool, vacuum pump or something to pull that thing back. Now some people say you don't even have to pull that that inner hub back in order to put this together. And that's probably true, but a number of people have had issues skipping that step. So I don't want to have issues. So you can line it up and you can kind of turn it, and you'll feel it's kind of locked up here. That means that the splines have engaged with our axle, which is pushing through here. So in all likelihood, because the splines are engaged, if we were to suck it up, go ahead and tighten this thing up, it would go in place just fine without having the vacuum turned on. But we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to put this this bolt in to hold our ABS wire in place so that it doesn't get damaged in some crazy way. Now, in order to start this car, it's got a push button start, so you're going to have to push the brake. Now, be careful when you go to push the brake to push start a car or push the start on a car when you have your calipers loose, because what's going to happen when you push that brake is all that fluid is going to go to the path of least resistance, which is in here now, because there's no rotor in between these two pads. So what you can do is either put something in there to for it to sandwich, so that it doesn't push the caliper out or something like that. I just throw this hammer in there for now. But you don't have to push the brake very hard. It's just to turn basically the brake lights on, so that the computer knows, oh yeah, the guy's got his foot on the brake. So you can just touch it lightly, and that touching it lightly is not going to push your calipers out. But just in case, it's a good idea. Just put something in there so that doesn't happen. All right, so let's go ahead and turn it on and get some vacuum applied to this, and then that'll allow us to close this gap here. Climb up into the car. I'm going to push the brake just slightly, just enough for the brake lights to come on, and then we're going to push our push to start button. There you go. Now the engine is applying vacuum for us to our hub, pulling that inner hub lock back so that it's not in the way of us tightening this new bearing assembly up. You see how it's free moving now? Remember, it was locked in place before. Those are those gear splines now that the vacuum is pulled back out of the way like this. So we're freewheeling here. But before, and whenever the car's off, they come back out and lock up. And you turn this, and your axle will turn. Okay, so let's tighten up the hub assembly here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this just so I have a little bit extra room. And you know, it's kind of a pain to turn this by hand, but you can go in the car and turn the wheel now that it's running, and it would turn real easy. Okay, let's tighten these up. And you want to kind of do a crisscross pattern, not tightening up just one side. You want it to go in even. So we'll get the other side now. We just did the lower front. We're going to do the upper rear. Turn that sucker around. Now, rear caliper's kind of in the way, but not too bad. All right, close the gap. Might as well do this bottom one. Okay, now we can go to the front and finish up. Let's turn this thing again. Come on, girl. There you go. Perfect. Okay, now we don't need the vacuum any longer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back so that you guys can see that a little better. You see how we're freewheeling right here? We'll go turn off the car. Okay, now that the car is turned off, that hub, the vacuum's no longer applied to it, so the hub should have come back out and engaged with the splines again. And so when I turn this, I ought to be able to see how that's locked up now. It'll turn the axle too. That's how you know that everything's engaged, everything's lined up the way it should be here. Okay. Now we need to tighten these bolts to torque spec. They are, oh, I can't remember the torque spec on it. I'll have to look it up and show you guys. But it's quite a bit. Okay, so let's get our 18. It is the 18. Here it is. Tighten these suckers up good. There we go. Next one. All right. Other side. You know, I think it was easier to turn it with the car off than it was with it on. Oh yeah. Snap into a Slim Jim. All right. Tight, tight, tight. Perfect. And we got Loctite on them, so they aren't going anywhere. Okay. Let's put our retaining nut back on here real quick. Looks like it had a little bit of thread sealant on it as well. Go ahead and put a little Loctite on it. Nothing crazy, just a dab will do ya. Just a dab will do ya. Dab a dollop of daisy. Cool. All right. Now let's tighten that sucker back on there. Now I think the torque setting on this axle nut retainer is only like 20 foot-pounds, so don't go crazy with it. I'm using an impact just because if you use a regular wrench, this is going to just turn on you. Just suck it down. That's all it needs. All right. And dust cap, cover that bad boy up. Booyah. Okay. Now we're ready. Oh, what do you want to do? You want to put our rotor back on, or do we want to route our new ABS cable in place of the old one? Well, we got to get this caliper out of our way, so we might as well put our rotor back in place. There goes that. And then, just so it doesn't go flopping around on us, we'll put a lug nut on it. We'll get our handy dandy caliper unhung. Okay. Make sure you don't get your brake hoses, or ABS wires, or anything like that tangled up. And right. Okay. It didn't move anywhere. Okay. Now to hold the brake caliper in place, you got its brake caliper bolts, and they too need what? Guess what? See, especially if you take one off and it's got that indication that it used to have some Loctite on it, make sure that you put a little bit more on there when you put it back together. That's the factory or somebody telling you that it needs Loctite. Line this guy up, get that bolt started by hand. Always start them by hand, not with the machine. You'll cross thread something and end up making an easy job a whole lot harder on yourself, fellas. All right, my other bolt went underneath the car, so it's got to go swimming. Right, there we go. Get a little Loctite on it. Doesn't take much. These things get torqued to some ungodly amount of torque too. Bolt started by hand. There we go. All right. Now we can tighten up those caliper bracket retaining bolts. Turn this, give us some room back here. Those bad boys are size 21. Like I said, they require some serious torque. But we're just going to snug them up for now, and then we're going to torque them by hand. Okay. Tighten it up by hand. Serious torque on these bad boys. Ooga doogas. Lots of ooga doogas. There you go. All right. Only thing left over here now is to route our new ABS where the old ABS wire went. Couple of Christmas trees to remove over here first. Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree. How lovely are branches. Okay, there's that. New Christmas tree in place. And I got another one up in here. Those things can be a real booger to get out if you don't use one of these tools. So get you one of these. They're just handy as all can be. All right, let's go upstairs and unplug the old wire. Where's she at? Okay, here it is. Got one of them red safety clips on it, of course, but it's no match for a determined mind. Well, I say that. Better get me a tool. It's no match for a determined mind with the right tools, right? There we go. We've loosened that. Now it's just pinch, a little squeeze, and away she goes. And then we'll pull out the old ABS wire. There it is. Oh, it's a snake. And we'll put the new one, we'll snake the new one right up through where the old one was routed, because that's the way Ford engineers figured that it was the safest place to be. Make sure you put your little Christmas trees back where they go. And go up top. We'll plug her back in. There she is. Hook it up like so. Satisfying click. Safety clip back in place. ABS wire is now reattached. Okay. Good time to double check everything that you took off is put back on. Everything is torqued. Yep. Okay. Oh, we've got a loose bolt here holding our ABS wire. Go ahead and tighten that up. A little 8mm bolt. There we go. Okay. Cap. Yep. All of the hub bolts are tight. Good. All right. We can remove this lug nut now. Get the old hub out of the way. And put the wheel back on. Here she comes. Oh, the only thing bad about these big old wheels is they is heavy. There we go. Okay. Get us a couple of lug nuts started so they won't slide out of our way. One top, one bottom. That'll keep it from falling out of place. And then we can slowly suck it down. All right. Let's get the others started here. Good idea to start these by hand. That way you don't cross thread them. Get on some hearing protection. Torque these by hand. All right, here we go. Well, not too bad, okay? Well, there we have it. We just changed the wheel hub on a Ford F-150 or Expedition in under 25 minutes, really. And that was with me, going to get parts, going to get tools, taking my sweet time. I'll bet you guys can do it even faster than that. And I'd love to hear how quickly you can get this done. Down in the comments, leave me some tips and suggestions on how we can do things a little different next time. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you take on these projects, because if I can do it, you can do it. Y'all have a wonderful day, and God bless.